Have you ever heard of a country declaring war on birds? Not as a joke, not as a metaphor, but a real, boots on the ground, machine guns blazing war. It sounds like something from a comedy sketch. But in 1932, the nation of Australia did exactly that, and what happened next became one of the strangest, most unbelievable stories in military history. The year is 1932. The world is in the grip of the Great Depression, and for farmers in Western Australia, things are about to get a lot worse. After World War I, thousands of Australian veterans were encouraged to take up farming on marginal lands. It was a tough life, made tougher by the harsh climate and economic collapse. And then, the Emus came. We're not talking about a few birds here and there. We're talking about an army. A feathered, fast-running army of 20,000 Emus, migrating inland after their breeding season. They discovered the farmers' wheat fields a veritable paradise of food and water. For the Emus, it was a buffet. For the farmers, it was a disaster. Imagine waking up to see a wave of 6-foot-tall birds stampeding across your land. They flattened fences, which not only allowed them free access but also let hordes of rabbits in to cause even more damage. They devoured and trampled crops, and doing months of back-breaking labor in a single morning. The farmers, many of them ex-soldiers, were desperate. They knew how to handle a rifle, but this was a different kind of enemy. They appealed to the government for help. The Minister for Defense, Sir George Pearce, himself a World War I veteran, listened to their pleas. The farmers had a unique proposition. They suggested using machine guns to deal with the emu plague. Pearce agreed. He saw it as a good public relations move, helping struggling veterans, and also as a useful live-fire training exercise for his soldiers. So, the stage was set. The military was mobilized. The target, Emus, Major GPW Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery, was given command of the operation. He, along with 2 soldiers armed with 2 Lewis machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition, headed to the district of Campion. The media was even invited to document the glorious victory. The plan seemed foolproof. How hard could it be to shoot a bunch of big, flightless birds? The first engagement took place on November 2nd. The soldiers spotted a flock of about 50 emus. They set up their ambush, hiding and waiting for the birds to get into range. The moment arrived. The gunners opened fire. Chaos erupted. But not the kind the soldiers expected. Instead of dropping in neat rows, the emus scattered in every direction. They ran at incredible speeds, up to 30 miles per hour, zigzagging unpredictably. The Lewis guns, designed for stationary targets, struggled to keep up after firing hundreds of rounds. The official body count was maybe a dozen birds. It was a humiliating start. Major Meredith was stunned. He reportedly said, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks." A few days later, they tried a new tactic. They ambushed a massive flock of over 1,000 emus near a local dam. This time, they waited until the birds were at point-blank range. Surely, they couldn't miss. The machine gun roared to life, and then jammed after only 12 shots. Before the soldiers could fix it, the emus had vanished over the horizon, leaving behind a handful of their fallen comrades and a cloud of dust. The failures were piling up, and the army was looking increasingly foolish. Major Meredith decided to get mobile. The new plan was to mount one of the machine guns on the back of a truck. They would chase the emus down, firing from a moving platform. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. The terrain was far too rough for the truck. It bounced and jolted, making it impossible to aim. The emus, meanwhile, were perfectly adapted to this environment. They effortlessly outran the vehicle. In one comical incident, an emu got tangled in a fence, and the truck, in its haste to get closer, crashed right through the fence and got stuck. The bird, in the meantime, freed itself and ran away. The gunner on the back was thrown around so violently he couldn't even fire a single shot. By now, the press was having a field day. What started as a serious military operation had become a national joke. Newspapers ran cartoons mocking the soldiers. One headline quipped about Emus developing guerrilla tactics. An ornithologist pointed out that the army had only managed to kill a tiny fraction of the Emu population. A debate even raged in the Australian Parliament, where one politician dryly noted that the Emus had won every round so far. After less than a week, and with thousands of rounds spent for a confirmed kill count of less than 100 birds, the first campaign was called off. The Minister of Defense had to face the ridicule of the public and his colleagues. Major Meredith and his soldiers returned, defeated. But the Emus weren't done, and neither were the farmers. The birds continued their destructive feasting, and the pressure on the government mounted again. So, against all common sense, a second military campaign was launched just a few days later. Major Meredith, perhaps seeking to restore his honor, went back into the field. This time, they had slightly more success. They learned from their mistakes, becoming more tactical and achieving a better kill rate. Over the next month, they managed to kill nearly 1,000 Emus. But here's the thing, there were still tens of thousands more. The operation was costing a fortune in ammunition and logistics, and it was barely making a dent in the Emu population. It was an unwinnable war of attrition. Finally, on December 10th, the operation was officially terminated. The army packed up its guns and went home for good. The Great Emu War was over. And the Emus had, by any reasonable measure, won. They had outsmarted, outrun, and outlasted the Australian military. So what happened next? The government reverted to a much simpler, and ultimately more effective, solution, a bounty system. They offered rewards to farmers and licensed hunters for every emu they culled. Over the next few years, this private enterprise approach proved far more successful than the military's machine guns. Tens of thousands of emus were culled, and the threat to the wheat fields was finally brought under control. The story of the Great Emu War remains a bizarre footnote in history. It's a hilarious tale of human hubris and nature's resilience. It serves as a powerful reminder that military might isn't always the answer, and that sometimes, the most unpredictable opponents are the ones you should never underestimate. Officially, Australia never surrendered, but unofficially, in the vast plains of Western Australia in 1932, a group of flightless birds faced down an army and emerged victorious. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this incredible story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more fascinating tales from history. See you next time.